everybody! Welcome to the aristocracy! How are you guys all doing? Okay, so for the stream today, we're going to be discussing two main things. The biggest thing is I'm going to be telling, I guess, my story of depression. And it's not as simple of like, oh, I was depressed for a while and then I found the solution and voila, I came out of it. Like, for those who suffer from depression, it's like something that you always deal with and you just learn how to manage it better. I feel like we still treat depression as like this, we treat it like it's just like something going on in your head and, and it's still something that we hide. But in reality, it's a war, right? You're at war with yourself. And in like the most fucked up way possible. So yeah, it's a fucking lot. Like, it's a lot. And so it's a lot of like roller coasters of back in, back out. But I feel like I'm finally out. Yeah, so I'll be talking about that stuff. And just in general, I want us to be able to talk about our depression more often. Especially like the men in the room, because I don't know, it feels like men are really, really shamed into not talking about, their depression and everything like that. And it really helps to not be alone, because one of the biggest symptoms of depression is hating yourself. Like, that's the number one thing that covers everything. And it's one of the reasons why depressed people don't get help, because we often think, and I'm sure you guys the people who have been through depression know this, you often think you deserve to feel that way. So you don't so you don't want to get help because you just feel like this is like this is the world serving you what you've wrought, and that's the unfortunate truth. And of course, we know that's not true. We know, it's literally, it's a chemical in your brain that's causing you to feel that way. It's like the number one symptom. Eris, will you have a special stream for Shavuot next week? I'll think about it. But yeah, that's why I want to hear your stories of depression. If you are comfortable talking about it, if you would rather just send it to me privately, that's totally fine too. But yeah, the self-imposed narrative of depression, but it's not really self-imposed. It's something that, like, it's the chemicals in your brain. Like, literally, we have this idea that we are so much in control of our thoughts, but that's not true. It's just not true. We are slaves to the chemicals in there. And when you're not getting enough serotonin, when you don't get vitamin D and stuff like that, you just naturally start feeling like that. And it's a really, really unfortunate truth. I think for dudes too, that the authoritarian tendency to work it out, do work, study in the form of dealing with it or coping. Yeah. I think like the way I would separate like clinical depression from, just like the colloquial when people just say they're like sad or depressed. This is not necessarily sadness, though it can sometimes like demonstrate it, show itself as that, but it's mostly about like hating yourself, like, and things being inward. Now guys, I'm gonna be getting into some things that are like a bit content warning-y, because I'm gonna get into the details of my depression. So I'm just warning you there, like, if that kind of thing is going to trigger you or be upset, you might want to mute the stream. Though mute the tab so I still get a view, please. Thank you. If you're comfortable, I want to hear your stories. So yeah, I was thinking maybe like after this, like we could have some people walk in and we could talk about it, and all that stuff. The best metaphor for my depression is a scene at the end of Inside Out where Riley's emotional dashboard grays out. Yep, Lydia, that was a very, very accurate one. No, I'm rolling. I'm sorry. I don't want to abandon you. Okay. So, I'm thinking like, where do I want to start with this? Like, how does one start telling the story of like one of the worst things in my life? I'm just like fixing this thing. Oh, it's not affecting you, but you know it's there. What was the source? Honestly, for me, it was, this is basically what happened is, I got into a game called Elder Scrolls Online, and I was in school studying at the time. Do you want us to DM you? Yeah, if you don't want to talk about it here openly, you feel free to send me. I might not be able to reply, but I would appreciate hearing your stories. Or honestly, if you are willing to post it on the Reddit, on the subreddit, like aristocracy, that would be really cool. But so basically, the way I guess my story starts is when during the early 2010s, I started playing a game called Elder Scrolls Online. Yeah, fucking video games, alright? Okay. And I got super addicted to it. And I was in university at the time. So it was a very, very bad combo. And I was in a relationship where I hadn't been dealing with a lot of the issues in the relationship and all that stuff. And I was in a really shitty living situation. There's just like a lot of things that I've kind of had kind of like culminated during that period. And so I got addicted to Elder Scrolls Online because it was an escape. And the problem is that escapes can often make it can make things way, way worse when you're unhappy. So basically what ended up happening is I got addicted to ESO and I started just playing it all the time. And I was getting the things I was getting in ESO, I was not getting in real life. Like I started getting community in ESO. I had friends in ESO that didn't judge me or had misconceptions about me. I was also getting intellectually like the things that I needed in the sense of like accomplishment out of ESO because I was struggling in university because of some of the problems I was having like in school. Yeah, so and the problem is that I would say that I wasn't depressed before ESO. It was just like I just needed a little escape, and the way the mechanics work of MMOs, right, which are player online RPGs, is they are meant to get you to be addicted. Like they literally make you addicted. They're formulated to trick your brains into actually thinking that you are living a real life within that game. And so that's what started to happen. Like, I literally, it got to a point where I lost weight because I wasn't eating in real life because I would get that same satisfaction from eating in the game. Like, and MMOs are like, they're structured around really giving you that kind of, they're really structured around giving you that sense of living a real life when you're not, and making you really, really addicted. Yeah, everything is designed there to keep you playing nonstop. And on top of that, for anyone here who suffered from addiction, I would be talking to other people, and they're all in the same mode. And it's like two cocaine addicts. You get them in a room and they just start talking about cocaine, and anyone who's trying to get away from cocaine, they're like, oh, that's kind of lame. And there starts being like this social environment of pressure where everyone's trying to outcompete one another. Everyone's trying to, to just be better and better. And I know that like addiction to MMO is like fucking, like we treat it like a joke, but I'm telling you, it was dangerous. Like, it was dangerous for me. It also like just warps with your mind. Whenever the person I was dating in real life, like when they wanted to talk to me outside of the game, I was awful. It made me super irritable when I was like just living, because whenever I was, doing things IRL, it was like I was being taken out of the game, and the game was my life. So I resented anyone who took me out, whether it was, my parents wanting to see me sometimes, or, my boyfriend trying to hang out with me, or, or just having to do like, your average getting groceries, just the average adulting things, because I was not a teenager at the time. I was still living on my own. So I had responsibilities. So anything that required me to have to do things in my IRL life, it was like, you're taking me away from my actual life, which is in the game. So I failed out of school at the time. it caused me to fail at school 100%. Because I was getting all my satisfaction from in the game. And it was, that was really depressing. That already started a first wave depression. It was like, if I had already been hinting at completely giving up on real life, failing out of school was like that was just like the final nail in the coffin. It was like, okay, well, I failed in real life, but at least I can be successful in Elder Scrolls, you know? And I got really fucking competitive. I ended up becoming one of the top 10 players in the game. Like, during the first few years it was out, I was known there as by my name at the time was Keowen. And I started streaming. That's when I originally started streaming. I streamed with a guy named Cypher as well. He's also a streamer. He's actually a really big streamer now. That's back when I got raided by Shroud and stuff. It was a crazy time. And especially then I started streaming, and then there was this financial incentive to be continuing to do a game that was slowly killing me. That was really fucked up. Oh, Peacecraft, shut up. But yeah, it was just this whole idea where, okay, I failed in real life, but I don't have to fail everywhere. I can fail, I can be, successful online. I can be successful in Elder Scrolls. I don't have to be a total failure. I don't have to completely hate myself. So, so it's ESO was simultaneously the cause of my depression, but it also becomes a coping mechanism. No, I was a really good ESO player. People would pay me to just teach them how to do them. My guides were spread around and all that stuff. Yeah, it's very easy to get sucked into all of that stuff. And I would get addicted to one part of the game, the PvE part, and raiding and everything like that. And then I would move. Shut up, Rolling. I'm just being honest. Okay, I was good at the game. I'm not good like that anymore. But I'm just trying to demonstrate how many hours I put into this game. I would sleep 4 hours at most. And I wouldn't do anything but play the game. And nothing. So you can imagine what starts happening in my real life. My real life becomes a total mess. I'm losing weight because I'm not eating enough. It was really, really bad. And honestly, I feel this is way more common than people admit, because no one wants to admit, how much these MMOs really warp your mind. Wait, ESO is a diet plan to make women hotter? Oh no. Well, I think I was a healthy weight before then, so it wasn't good for me. Make sure you're eating, getting plenty of water, always, not to be a nanny. Yeah, no, you're right, psychological analogy. So, yeah, so there was this weird thing where I was playing this game, and it's simultaneously my coping mechanism, but it's also the thing that's keeping me down. It's keeping me in a bad place. And whenever someone recognized the problem, my parents, because they would be why haven't we heard from you in 8 months? And I talked to my parents normally every day, so that was very weird. Or, when my boyfriend was at the time, when he was wait, this is really unhealthy. We've lived in the same apartment for months, and you haven't said a word to me. Right? Because you're just absorbed in your game. Yeah, every guy fucking wants a gamer girlfriend until they realize that but then in that situation I was just completely ignoring everything, just totally mind focused on the game. And on top of that, I was irritable. I was mean to the people around me. I was because everyone was just trying to get me nagging girlfriend hooked on the social nagging. Everyone was trying to me, everyone in real life was trying to get me out of the game. And I didn't like that, right? Because my whole life was focused on my character. Really, really, really toxic. I remember getting my hair cut, right? When I was addicted to ESO. And I was in there and I was just on my phone getting my hair cut. And normally I love, I'm a girly girl, right? I love getting my hair done and all of that stuff. But ESO had ruined that for me, because I remember getting my hair done and just thinking the whole time being every second right now I could be raiding. Every second right now I could be raiding. Right? Like, while I'm like getting my hair done. Like, that's something that I normally would just love. A really nice self-care moment and stuff. Very, very toxic. Toxic femininity eras, I know. So, and just like my life just starts kind of falling apart in multiple ways. Like, my relationship falls apart. I lose friendships, right? Because my friends are like, why are you just completely ignoring us? Did you calculate how much your haircut costed, Silver? Yeah, like, I mean, I was like, oh, like, I could have spent this money and gotten 1 billion haircuts in the game. So, it was like really, really bad. And on top of that, the friends that don't abandon me are the friends that are simultaneously addicted with me. So I had a really good friend named Skipples who was addicted with me just the same. And so, like, we just made each other's addictions completely worse over and over again. And I'm telling this story because I feel like people treat being addicted to video games as like this joke, but it's not. And I don't think this is a video game issue. I think this is specifically an MMO issue because of the way MMOs work. Zonia, thanks so much for hopping in the stream. Hello. So my life just starts kind of spiraling out of control. And especially, I think I'm a pretty social person, and it almost morphed me into an introvert when I'm not like naturally like that. And because I really like talking to people. You guys see all the time, like, I love talking to people, I love hearing their stories, and suddenly I wasn't doing that anymore. You know, MMOs had just like ESO had just replaced everything. And I'm trying to remember what happened, but when I was streaming, I got successful pretty quickly when I was streaming ESO, and another female streamer got jealous. And I had ranted to her once about the fact that I had a stalker. So, and keep in mind, guys, this is like in the Gamergate days and all that stuff. Yeah, the con, that's exactly what, like, because when I went to ESO and I walked around, people treated me great. But in real life, no one treated me like that. So, in ESO, I was treated like someone who had accomplished something. But anyways, so this other streamer gets jealous. I actually don't even think she streams anymore. And at the time, I used to be very open with my parents. I streamed with a video on. I shared my photo all the time. I talked about my real name. Like, I didn't give a shit, you know. And she knew my address and stuff because we were kind of friends behind the scenes, or I thought we were. And she ends up messaging the stalker and telling him my address. So, and on top of that, saying how much I complained and sent screenshots of all the times I'd complained about him stalking me everywhere, just so he could get really, really angry. Yeah. So this happened in around, I think, what was it, 2013, 2014? Yeah, so it was really fucking nasty. If you guys know the streamer Cypher, he was actually very supportive to me during that period. He's he now plays, I think, Fortnite, but he used to play ESO. But anyways, so yeah, just so I know, it's really, really fucked up. So anyways, I end up, and I don't realize this happens until too late. I started, when I would go down to my apartment building, at the time I lived in an apartment, and when I would go down to the building, there started to be like these notes that would just be like, roses are red, violets are blue, if I can't have you, no one can. Like shit like that. Like things that were like love letters that simultaneously became more and more violent. And the guy obviously didn't know the specific apartment I was in, so he just knew the building, so he'd just leave these notes out there, and then he'd address them to my in-game name. yeah, so I started being afraid to just like leave. So I wouldn't go get my groceries. Like back then there wasn't really an option to do like grocery delivery and stuff. Yeah, Cypher PK. Yeah, he went through a lot of the same shit when he was streaming with ESO. It was a very toxic kind of community, and he was very, very supportive at the time. But yeah, he's really blown up now. Anyways, so yeah, he knows the story of like that whole thing, what happened. He also had a stalker. I don't know, like it was very strange. And I'd certainly said some mean things about the stalker because I was like freaked out by them and stuff, and they just started to completely hate me and become obsessed, parasocial, all that shit. And I was pretty known in the game, so I think like it also connected to that. He also starts following me in the game. He starts stalking me like wherever I go in the game. And keep in mind, I'm dealing with like depression and all this shit on the side. And like my life is falling apart. And then on top of that, now ESO is kind of starting to fall apart. This thing that it's supposedly being like, as if stalking is real. Like he was following me in the game too. So I end up moving. I ended up moving because the guy freaked me out so much. And I know the rates of how often stalking leads to like a rate of violence. Very freaky. So I ended up having to move, which put me in a really shitty financial situation. And because like I was just terrified, like who knew when I was going out if that was going to be him. And keep in mind, I was streaming with my video at the time, so he could just recognize me wherever. And if you guys are trying to be like, oh, like, like if she streamed with video, that means that her face is out there somewhere. It's like, I got rid of all those videos. They're all gone. It's too long. There's some people here who did see me back then, but it's done, and if you do have my picture, I ask you to just keep it private, because obviously I want to prevent this situation from happening again. And this is why I'm so private now, like with my appearance and with my name and all that stuff. And so the history anime girl was bored. Well, so anyways, like that happens, and so ESO stops being fun or an escape for me because suddenly now I'm being stalked in there too. And on top of that, I have like this other female streamer that has just totally betrayed my trust, and hates my guts. And it like, it stops being like enjoyable. But I was still addicted. And I remember casually just mentioning how much ESO had ruined my life with my friend Skipples. Some of you guys know Skipples because he's active in ESO. And I told Skipples, I was just like, this shit is ruining my life. And then Skipples was like, it's ruining my life too. And we never talked about it. When you're addicted to MMOs, like talking about in real life is almost like, it's like taboo. Like in those social circles, you don't talk about shit in real life because you don't want to remind everyone about how much real life sucks. And so it was almost like when I found out that his life had been in shatters too because of this, I was like, holy shit. So we're ruining our lives whenever we play together every day. And peace crash, shut up. Okay. I know, I'm sorry, Tight 90, I'm sorry. I like your name though. So we decided, I was like, okay, Skipples, I'll quit if you quit. And Skipples was like, you can't quit, but I'll quit if you quit. And I was like, you can't quit. And then we made a pact that we were going to quit together. And we went to like a few other people in our community. We told them that like it was ruining our lives, that like it had caused us both to fail out of school. And it was ruining our relationships with our family, with the people in our real life. It was ruining us financially. Like there were just so many things that it was destroying, and no one else would quit with us. Everyone else was just like, they just immediately ostracized us from that group, because it's just like when, addicts just, if you're fully an addict and you don't want to acknowledge you're an addict, you don't want anyone around that is acknowledging it too. So it ends up just being Skipples and I. and we decided to quit. And so we uninstalled ESO. I can't even tell you how hard it is. Like, I know this, if you've never been addicted to an MMO, you're probably like, oh, she's fucking crazy, dude. Like, but I'm telling you, uninstalling that game was the hardest thing, because it had all 2 years of blood, sweat, and tears of work, of my character, of everything. Like, just uninstalling that shit was so, so hard. So, I uninstalled it. Yeah, it was like giving up heroin. Don't worry, they'll make the game shitty enough for you to not play organically. Yeah, there were things like it. I think I've cried before giving up on addictive apps. Yeah, no, it's like a legit thing. This is like 100% legit. And I feel like people downplay it and they treat it like a joke. But these games, they fuck with you into thinking that it's like super real. It felt real, because you build real relationships in the games too, and like a real reputation. But anyways, so we quit together. We don't quit video games, and I don't think this as a whole is a video game issue. I mean, some video games have similar problems, but I think like this is a specific issue with like MMO type games that are all about grinding, like grinding, because you have to put so much time into it that the only way to be successful is to basically lose your life. And if you're competitive like me, and I'm a very competitive person, it's like it's just naturally going to eat away at your life. Something like Rust is a little better because with Rust at least it ends every few weeks or something. But like ESO never ends. So, like it's just constant grind all the time. But yeah, so we quit. And I think that entire experience, and while I was grateful that I quit and it was a good thing for me, you know, I got back into school, I started doing better, I started getting my life back on track. It was like that initial kind of, that initial experience of being depressed, I never really got out of it. Especially, I started to really hate myself for the fact that I'd wasted 2 years of my 20s. Like, I think I was, how old was I when this is going on? I think it was like 23 to 25. They're supposed to be like the best years of your life, and I had just wasted them in a video game. No, Rolling Deadly, don't quit. Okay, I'm not an addiction, it's different. So, anyways, but like quitting is not, it wasn't like, oh, you quit, okay, my life's just totally on track. Like that's totally chill. That's not what happened. Yeah, I was talking about ESO, Boog. But yeah, that's not what happened, and ended up still being a huge headache because I built up all these habits and toxic lifestyle aspects, like, that started to really eat away at me. Just from not taking care of myself, not taking care of my apartment, eating bad food, barely eating when I did eat. Like, heard you were doing depression VE day and stuff. Yep, that's what I'm talking about, Rando. So I think it just like, and now that I didn't have ESO as like the kind of thing to distract me, then I was just fully aware of how shitty my life was. Cockablaze, that's a unique name, but thank you so much for joining the aristocracy. So I think like in some ways it helped a little, but it was like I ripped the Band-Aid off with no support network or anything, and then my depression just went in full swing. And that's when things started, because now I didn't have like something to distract me, because in reality it had really been like a coping mechanism. And so then started this cycle of me being depressed, trying to get myself out of it, me depressed, trying to get myself out of it. One of the number one ways that I started to teach myself how to get myself out of it, or like how to get out of like depressive mode, was by buying things. I became like addicted to like material goods. I know, this is fucking toxic femininity if there is any. I mean, just buying things at Sephora, buying jewelry, like buying stuff, and I didn't have the money to do the shit. Oh no, cockblaze. And yeah, so like And I think it was, for me, just like grasping at straws. Like, like, oh, like if I buy this thing, then I'll really start taking care of that. If I buy this notebook, then I'll really start writing my plans down. If I buy this, like, it was like I was drowning in the sea of depression, and I really thought that any item I could buy would be like a like a lifeboat or something. So it was like keeping me afloat. But it was a really toxic way to do that. It, of course, starts putting me in debt financially. So then I start getting in a really financial situation. Doesn't help depression, right? And of course, these items, they make you feel better for a few days. They don't actually do anything. No, I still played games. I would play Rust. I would play, hey Doobie. I would play Age of Empires. I would play Overwatch. Like, there were a bunch of games that I would do. PCP, you're gonna have to pay for the pleasure of a hot tub stream. Loria, thanks. But yeah, like, I became like, every nightmare of a stereotype of a female. Like, that's just like, yeah, that was just true. Like, I would just go buy things, and like, my only happiness would happen like when I got, a box from Amazon or something. But all of that stuff would always go away. And even when I made like Calliope Club, I would always have these moments of when my depression kind of like went away. And I think also I wasn't going outside ever. I was staying inside. I wasn't like, now I didn't have like that kind of social community that I had in ESO. So I felt very alone. And I was just consumed in all my mistakes in life. Like, every morning, and this is going to sound really triggering, my most depressive state would always be in the morning. Oh, thank you, PCP. I would wake up every morning, and I wouldn't want to get out of bed because I would just stare at the ceiling and just think, wow, you are the biggest fuck up in the entire world. Like, think of all the privileges you got in life, and you just chuck them all away. Like, you're pathetic. You're this. You're that. Like, you're worth nothing. Barely content, thank you for that sub. I really appreciate it. Welcome to the aristocracy. And that's like when the self-hate really starts. Like, I just start, like, any mistake I'd made in life, it just starts eating away at me. Any friendship I'd lost, when I dropping out of school, I start being consumed by this idea of making my parents not proud of me. Like, the idea that, oh, I'm sorry, James. I don't know why it's doing that. Yeah, I really become consumed by this idea of, like, my parents, I've brought shame to my family. I don't know if it's as much of a common thing in, like, the West, that kind of attitude, but it is in, like, in more, like, Eastern cultures and stuff. I start being, like, really, really consumed by, like, I'm looking at my parents. They sacrificed so much. My dad gave up his career. My mom gave up so much to bring me out of, like, a war-torn country to this amazing country of Canada, and I've completely wasted it. And I just start, like, being consumed with it, and it eats away with me every morning. Doobie, thanks. But yeah, like, I don't know, a lot of people get depressed at night. For me, my depression would always hit in the morning. By at night, I was distracted enough, but it was just like opening my eyes every morning and being like, this is my life, and I've totally fucked it up. The only things sometimes that would help was, like, I would do, like, I started getting these little coping mechanisms where I played video games a lot, obviously. A preacher, yeah, you know what that's like. I'm not saying I'm glad you guys are feeling this way, but at least it's nice to know that I'm not super alone with this. And keep in mind, at the time, like, I didn't think that being depressed was being consumed by your own self-hate. I thought being depressed was like you lose someone in your life or something and then you're really sad. Like, I had a total misconception of what depression was. And yeah, so, like, but yeah, every morning I would just, like, it was like I had to come to the realization that this was my life and I was me, and that sucked, and I hated myself. And so I just started disassociating from life. I, like, disassociate from everything. I barely talk to people. Excited to find out how I become a naked Chad. Yeah, I like only want to spend money on stupid shit. Yup, exactly. Um, the the only things that would kind of bring me little moments of happiness would be like spending money on stupid shit so I could get like that brief amount of time that I was excited about that item, whether it was like a new graphics card or, you know, that new lipstick at Sephora, or that new piece of skincare or anything like that. That's why I know so much shit about like skincare and jewelry and all this shit, because like I would distract myself with materialism. And what and so I would become consumed with that. I would also watch a lot of Star Trek. I remember there were Borg, you know, the guys know the Borg if you ever watch Star Trek. I would always watch like a Borg episode because watching someone get assimilated by the Borg was like, it was like, oh, well, at least I'm not being assimilated by the Borg right now, you know? At least I'm not having like my limbs torn off from me, and being replaced, you know, forcefully with like this synergetic like implants. That's really nice. At least I'm not a slave to the hive. Like that was like the only thing that could make me feel better. Like I had to compare my life to like being assimilated to the Borg. At some point I almost start like accepting my depression and just like accepting that this was just how I was gonna be. I made shitty mistakes in my life. I was always gonna hate myself because I wasn't one of those people that lied about themselves. And that was it. I was just a realist, you know? This is just how life was gonna be. So, when I made Calliope Club, like it was one of those brief moments of like pulling me out, like just a little bit, even though I was still very depressed. Because I was like, well, at least I'm accomplishing something, even if it's just a Discord server. But at least like 100 people in here, they like it. But then Calliope Club starts growing and all that stuff. But with Calliope Club's success, I start doing better in school too. What were the little coping mechanisms you mentioned? Honestly, it was buying things. Buying things and and watching and escaping into films. And also video games. I would go through little moments of rest addictions and stuff. When I went through like whenever I would go through really dark periods of my depression, I would go through like I would be playing Rust. That started to be like my pattern. Because in Rust I could be like really irritable and mean and get all of it out, and that was like normalized there. Get a new hobby for a week and then like back to depression. Yeah, exactly. It was just like this cycle of thinking, oh, I'm out of depression, then I'm being back into it. With Calliope Club, there started to be like this extra thing where now I wasn't necessarily a public figure then, but I was starting to become more known. And so I started to get like, oh yeah, they were really unhealthy. And I started to get a lot of people noticing me. A lot of people were mad at me because I had to ban them. I was talking to a lot of nefarious characters. I got semi-doxed by some Nazis. And that was really stressful. So there started to be like a ton of extra effects on my mental health. And I think like, because I hadn't had any training, I hadn't expected CC to be so successful. That like suddenly I was, you know, in control of like thousands of people. And I hadn't been trained on how to do that in the best way and all the effects of it and, you know, and all the ins and outs of running a staff and all this stuff. Like, and I'm doing this for zero pay, right? But yeah, like I'm doing this for like zero pay. So it was a lot to start dealing with. But I couldn't get myself to quit because I just loved it so much. So it was basically started to almost be like this weird form of self-harm. Yeah, my depression started to get so bad. I had a health disaster happen at the beginning of one summer. And I'm a hypochondriac, for those who don't know. I've always suffered with hypochondria, which is where you're very, very afraid of always getting sick. You're always afraid of germs, like all of that stuff. And I had a health disaster, which was kind of like all my nightmares happening in real life. And after I came out of that, it was just the catapult, like straight downhill. Suddenly, like, the coping mechanisms weren't working anymore, and I just went into a really deep, deep depression. I withdrew from everyone I knew. I lived that whole month and those 2 months in rust, because it was my only way to, like, I guess, escape from how shitty my life was. Which was, like, I guess, like, rating other people and being shitty in rust, as one does. And, like, my real life was in tatters. Like, yeah, it was really, really bad. I completely withdrew from everything. I withdrew from CC as well. And I came back, but I still wasn't better. I had a research trip that I had to go do, and the research trip went terribly. During the research trip, I had some of my mods on CC go, and they had like this little coup, and they went and made a competitive server that's now dead. But you guys know what I'm talking about, who's watching this. Yeah, I do have OCD. I have, like, anxiety, OCD, depression, but nothing else, I don't think. So I think, like, so suddenly, like, I had, like, all the stress of all of that stuff, and I was already in a sensitive kind of depressive state, so I think it just started really setting me downhill. And especially, I couldn't quit doing Calliope Club because I was so dedicated to it, even though it was slowly killing me. And yeah, I have anxiety for sure. Anxiety and depression go, like, hand in hand. They're like two teammates working together. There was, and eventually, and I'm just warning you guys, this is when it's going to start getting detailed, right? I'm going to try not to, I'm not like graphically, but, like, I'll be getting into, like, suicide ideation. So, eventually, like, what starts to happen is it starts to become a day-to-day feeling like I just don't want to be living anymore. Like, the world is better off without me. All my loved ones are better off without me. CC would be better off without me. My parents would be better off without me. I've just brought shame to them. That's all I've done. And I'm just a failure. My biggest accomplishment in life is Calliope Club, and even then people hate me there. Like, wherever I go, just consumed by, like, I just thought anything I touch just, like, fails. Just consumed with that idea. Oh yeah, OCD is the worst, and it really, really made things really bad. So, every, like, morning, I would just start to be consumed with this idea of hurting myself. Like, I would fantasize about it. I would just fantasize about how much better it would be to just not be living. I would fantasize about the act of doing it. I'd fantasize about it just being over. And slowly those fantasies started to morph into, and on CC I couldn't talk about these issues because I'm supposed to be a leader, I'm supposed to be professional and all this stuff, so I kind of hid this stuff. I hid it from my friends. Some of my closest friends started to notice some things going on, but I was embarrassed about it, right? I didn't want to, especially men are embarrassed about talking about suicide ideation and depression because they're expected to be strong. But with women, it's also bad, but it's a little different because with women, we're really scared about being, like, attention seeking. I never wanted to be the person who was, like, you know, trying to grab everyone's attention, being like, oh, well, I'm probably going to, like, you know, I'm thinking about, you know, hurting myself tonight or things like that. Like, I was always private with that stuff. I never talked about it with anyone. I completely absorbed it, like, within myself. And oh my god, like, I'm, like, taking myself back emotionally into this period. Yeah, sorry, I'm, like, tearing up, like, yeah, the idea of living just started to be so insanely painful, that I started Googling methods, right? I started trying to actually figure out, it stopped being a question of whether or not I wanted to live. It started to be a question of how I was going to do it. That's the level of, like, it was full plan mode and everything. And I would look up methods, and it's actually really, really hard to hurt yourself. Like, it's actually, like, really hard to kill yourself. That's just like the reality. And I wanted to just say, please, if you are feeling like this right now, or if I'm triggering you, or making you feel worse, please, like, mute the stream or something and call, like, a suicide hotline. I don't want to make anyone feel worse about it. I'm just trying to tell my story. But yeah, like, so I would Google, I would Google different methods and find out, like, the effects of them. I would just be consumed when people were talking with me, when I was in CC meetings, when I was doing work with my advisor, like, when I was talking with anyone, I almost couldn't hear them. I almost couldn't hear them talk. Like, I was disassociating so much from, like, my real life, because in my head, all I could hear was, like, this voice in my head, not in a schizophrenic way, but just, like, yourself, like this voice in my head just saying, just fantasizing of suicide. Like, I was consumed with the idea of it. Like, it just started to be the only thing in my brain every day, all the time. Just consumed with the idea of seeing myself gone. And there starts to be, like, and it just becomes, like, normal, and I just kind of accepted that this is just how it's gonna be. And until I find a method that's gonna be viable, because there were all these issues with any method I found. There were all these problems, like, associated with it. I was so terrified of having, like, a brain injury from it. I was terrified of it going wrong. I was terrified of it just being seen as me being, like, some attention whore. That was the biggest fear. I just wanted it done in the cleanest, simplest way possible. And with obviously, like, the least pain possible. And I actually think, I'll be honest, if I had had a shotgun, if I had had a gun on me at the time, in Canada, it's very hard to get that stuff, I 100% think I would be dead. 100%. And a lot of people don't talk about this, but the number one cause of death from gunfire in the United States and in Canada is suicide. Yeah, so if I had easier access to that, because obviously that's an easier option, I would 100% be dead. Because, pills is actually a very ineffective way. It's like I think it's the number one common way that people try, but it's actually, it's like the success chances are so minor. Because, guys, I was researching, and of course I researched this shit. So yeah, I would 100% be dead if I had access to a gun. Because I was just consumed by the idea. Like, when people would be talking to me, I would be fantasizing of the gunshot. Like that level. Like, almost the sense of comfort came from the idea of the harm. I know that sounds so fucked up to say, but it, like, this fantasy of it just became so consuming. Yeah, so anyways, I remember, like, at some point, Doobie was around, and Doobie was like, yeah, I teared up a little talking about this, because it's, like, a really heavy part of my life. And at one point, Doobie noticed something was really off about me. And he was one of the few friends that didn't get mad at me when I wasn't around. Because normally there would always be this cycle of, like, when I pulled back, my friends would get really mad at me. They'd feel like I was being a bad friend, and then they'd kind of, like, abandon as a natural effect of that, and then I'd feel really alone. Doobie was one of the few people who didn't. When I pulled back, he was always there when I came back. And he was non-judgmental or anything. So, Doobie, like, notices something's up, And he's like, Eris, like, I like, you know, he just told me, he was like, I just want, you need to just tell me what's going on. I won't judge you, like, or anything. And for the first time ever, like, I didn't told my parents, I didn't told anyone in my life, like, I just unloaded. Because you have to understand, I was so terrified of being like that girl who always talks about suicide. Like, who wants to be that? So none of my friends knew I was being consumed with suicide. And this is why, like, you never judge that someone, this is something that gets to me about the left, right? It's about, because the left lefties, like, really misuse the concept of white privilege and privilege in general, to assume that just because you're not in some oppressed group, that means that you're not privileged, but you don't know what someone's going through, right? You do not know what someone's going through. And because, like, I completely hid it from everyone. I don't think anyone knew. It was like, yeah. And so I totally unload on Doobie. And I tell him every detail, like details that I'm not telling you guys right now, because I'm literally afraid that it'll get, like, I don't even know what the rules are on Twitch about talking about this level of stuff. I told him about all the graphic fantasies I'd had, about the websites I'd searched for methods and all this stuff. Yeah, I told him everything. And I literally said, the only thing, Doopy, that's keeping me from doing it is just not having a viable method. Right? If there was a gun right in front of me right now, I would do it right this second. Anyways. And he just says, okay, well, like, just know that he was not even judgmental. He wasn't like, he didn't treat me like I was crazy for having this ideation. He was just like, okay, you and I are gonna fix this. I don't know. He was just there for me. And so one of the things that I found on one of the websites that I found that had the methods, and it had all different types of methods, and it's one of the number one things that people will do when they have suicide ideation is they'll Google different methods, right? And one of the websites, which obviously is irresponsible to have methods on there, but one of the websites that it had on there, it said, please, like, and I was streaming this website with him because I was just telling him all the details, and on there, like, there was a section that said, please do not consider, like, any of these methods have the chance of being painful, of causing super harm, and, like, if you're just thinking completely logically, like, you need to make sure that you have done every single thing you can think of in your life to make you want to live just one more day before you try any of these methods. Like, it said that on the website. So Doobie said, what is one thing that will keep you going just one more day? Like, you know, no matter how pathetic it is, even if it's tiny, even if it's another material good, even if it's like going into debt for $50,000 and buying a diamond ring, like, what is it, you know? And like, even if it's just someone coming to your house tomorrow to clean up, even if it's just going, you know, booking a day to go jump on trampolines, like, what's just one thing that you could be doing that would make you just want to live one more day? And it sounds so pathetic, but I said, honestly, like having a dog, right? And like having like a dog would be just really nice. I'd like to have a little puppy. As pathetic as that sounded, just to not feel so alone, and especially get out all my mothering instincts and all that stuff out. And I said, and then Doobie was like, okay, so then, like, let's get you a dog. And I was like, that can't happen. It just can't happen. Number one, I don't have the money for a dog. I mean, I was already in debt. Number two, dogs were not allowed in my, I'd already considered getting a dog. But there was just nothing, there was no viable way for me to get a dog. I didn't have the money. It wasn't allowed in my house. I didn't have the money to move. Like, I couldn't break the law and just have a dog in my house. So I'd already told myself that, like, I couldn't get a dog. I'd given up on that kind of dream to get to that point. And Doobie was just like, well, like, who gives a shit? Like, just get a dog and then we'll figure it out from there. It's like, because in a way, any of the consequences of getting a dog, whether it meant going into more debt or my landlord really hating me and taking me to court or like something like that, all those options were better than me being dead tomorrow. Right? So it made sense to try everything. And so I was like, he pushed me to just like, he was like, no, like, you could just go get a dog, just like let's do it. Like, we could start researching if you want to go to a kennel or a breeder. I'll help you out financially if you need help. Like you can just go do it. Yeah, so anyways, he pushed me to call my landlord and just beg my landlord to let me have a dog. My landlord's kind of a dick. Like, hopefully he's not watching this. So anyway, so I called my landlord and I just burst into tears. Like, and I just said, I really need like a therapy dog. Like, I know I signed a contract and stuff, and I know I wasn't allowed to have one, and stuff, and to my surprise, my asshole landlord was like, okay. My landlord was just like, he just reversed the thing in the contract and he hated dogs. And he was just like, I don't know, maybe just hearing me cry or something, it had an effect. He was just like, okay, you could get a dog. I was like, what? So then I realized that I didn't have to move to get a dog. So anyways, I started researching dogs and all of that stuff. I decided that I wanted to go with a breeder, because I didn't feel like it was responsible for me to get a dog from like the pound when I didn't think I was in the right place to deal with, you know, the random issues you can get from dog. I need to at least predict some of the issues. And I knew, so that's why I decided to go with a specific breed that I could predict it. And I ended up kind of deciding between golden retrievers or Samoyeds because they're both incredibly friendly, super loving, like they never get aggressive even if you do something awful. And because I wanted a big dog. I like big dogs, you know, they make me feel cozy. And a dog that got me, the biggest thing was a dog that got me to go outside, got me walking, got me being active, got me like living my life and like living in the real world instead of always just in my head. And we ended up deciding on a Samoyed. Number one, because of how fucking cute they are. Number two, like their personalities are just, they're so friendly and they're hyper and they will like not let you be depressed lying in bed. Like they will literally drag you out. And they just like, I could not look at a Samoyed without this huge smile coming on my face. Like, I don't know what it was about them, but they just like, they're always happy. They always have this thing called like the Sammy smile, and it was just like infectious. And I went and I met up with one of them. Like I went to a breeder and I met up with some of them, and they were just like the most affectionate, sweetest dogs I'd ever seen in my life. And just like with these like huge smiles, and I couldn't be depressed being around them because every second around them was like a reminder of how beautiful and happy, like, you know, like life can be, because they enjoy every little bit of life and they like make you enjoy every little bit. Like any little bit, like just walking around, they make you enjoy, like the forest, they make you enjoy, like the sky, like any little thing that we always, when you're depressed, you don't notice, right? Because you always have like these foggy glasses on. And nothing looks clear or colorful. Everything looks gray. There's actually science that when you have low serotonin, you actually see more gray in your eyes. And there was just something like, I don't know, like the serotonin, like I got from being around her. I was already on antidepressants, but it was just like, it catapulted that like to another level. And yeah, so I ended up signing up to get her. I waited a few months. Thankfully, it was before the pandemic. This is around September before the pandemic, of like, I think 2019. And yeah, and like, and even before I got her, just the idea that I was getting her, that I was waiting, was like enough. Yeah. Oh, you guys are debating why landlords don't like dogs. It's just because I think they're expecting that dogs are gonna like damage the property. That's usually like the biggest thing. I don't think, actually, Samoyeds are hyperallergenic, so they don't give people allergies. But yeah, so like just knowing that I could kind of, that things were gonna get better and there was some light at the end of the tunnel, pulled me out 90% from that depression. Because suddenly I wasn't fantasizing about suicide anymore. I was fantasizing about, you know, my future puppy. You know, I wouldn't stop Googling Samoyeds. Like, my friends at the time, like, no, like, I was literally, all I could do, like, I'll show you guys. All I could do would be, like, I would just look up Samoyed puppy. Yeah, this is just me being honest. I just look at them. I'd be like, oh my god, I'm gonna have one of these babies. How can I want to hurt myself when, like, life has something like this to offer? And I don't know, like, it pulled me out of that. I wasn't consumed because, you know, something that a lot of people don't like talking about with depression is depression actually makes you very selfish. It's a consequence of suffering. When you're suffering, we have a human instinct to become very selfish. For like survival. You become very self-absorbed within your own self-hate, within your own suffering and all of that stuff. And so it's one of the reasons why you suck. You probably become like a really shitty friend and all of that stuff. And like, you know, the idea of having a dog, it just naturally made me unselfish because now I was thinking all about what's gonna make the dog happy. What's gonna make, like, oh my god, shaved dog, thank you so much for rating. Thank you. For those who are joining, I'm telling my story of surviving depression. It feels very selfless, but in reality, you're being selfish, right? And I know that sounds fucked up, but selfish is the wrong word. It's more like self-centered. You become just absorbed within your own suffering. And having a dog, pulls you out of that. Because suddenly you have this little innocent thing that needs you to take care of them. Oh, no, it's okay. It's totally fine. Don't worry about it, shaved dog. Yeah, like, it just, suddenly, like, I have this responsibility now. And this really epic responsibility. I need to feed this puppy. I need to take care of them. I need to train them. I need to give them a good life and all the responsibility associated with that. And I just didn't have time to be depressed anymore. Because now I was just focused on this little puppy and this future puppy I was getting. In December. So I wait months and months to get this dog. I wanted to do it in a responsible way. I didn't want to just go to like some puppy mill or something. And I wait and I pick up this dog. I'm going to show you guys a picture of her. Oh, here. When I picked her up, this was her. Believe it or not, I got a much cheaper price for her. I got a much cheaper price for her because she was not show quality, whatever that means. That's her being really sad with me because I left her alone while I went to go eat my Wendy's. Yeah, isn't she the cutest thing ever? And I just became so absorbed within like taking care of her and you know, and I made all this effort to like buy all these really cute toys to her, to do like a cute setup. And just for size reference, guys, okay, like she's the size of a football there. Like, she's tiny. Absolutely tiny. Yeah, so she's sad. Right after I take that photo, she goes and has diarrhea everywhere. She actually had giardia. A lot of puppies have like some kind of problem like that. So she was having diarrhea all the time. So I was like, the whole time I'm not sleeping. I'm barely sleeping. I'm cleaning up diarrhea every second. And like, yeah, having responsibility for someone else, it forces you out of that. It forces you out of that like self-absorbed, self-depressive mindset. Yeah, it was just like having a human baby. And yeah, she was just like, I was just taking her, I think I was sleeping like 2 hours a night at most, because I was trying to potty train her too. And yeah, it was a lot. This is when her ears went up. That's her. Her ears went up. Like, look how cute she is. And every day she was growing. I wrote this whole paper, this whole like guide on like how I was raising her, like every week, all the goals that I was gonna hit with different training and all of that stuff. And it just like, I don't know, it just totally took me out. It was like my depression was ripped from me, because I just didn't have time to be depressed anymore. I was, taking care of this like little baby. And then on top of that, she was also like, as she grew older, as she became less and less needy for like constant attention, she started to be able to give more and more back to me, like just be there for me in general. So as she grew older, that's kind of like what would happen. I'll show you guys like her as she kind of gets a little older. So that's her, I think, as a little kid. They're so cute. I love their black noses. So adorable. And yeah, I know. She's adorable. She's a cutie. I take so many photos of her too, obviously. This is also, she starts being a teenager. This is her as a teenager. Yeah, like, you can't be depressed with this shit. Like, and honestly, like, any dog is gonna do this. Like, a dog that you own. And I don't think it works if, you get a dog for, like, the family. I think it needs to be, like, your dog. Like, you're the one that is doing the feeding. You're the one that is doing the walking. Like, they rely on you. I think that's very important. Yeah, and this is her now. Oh, there. Okay, that works. Okay, look. This is her now. So she's now 1.5. Have you played BOTW? No, I don't know what that is. Yeah, I named her after the game Zelda. I also always liked the Aunt Zelda character in Sabrina the Teenage Witch comics. She was just always the person that was there for everyone. Aw, sister, that's really sweet. But yeah, honestly, having a pet is a really big deal. And having a dog especially. Dogs, we evolved to be with dogs. Like, we almost didn't evolve. They evolved alongside us. I think it's one of the few instances of two beings, like, evolving together. She does have an anime profile. She does. Yeah, this is her. I can't even, like, yeah, I can't even tell you, how much she saved my life. Look at her. Oh, why is it so big? Oh no, Zelda's taking over. So So yeah, that's why I'm obsessed with my dog. She saved my life. And that's why I'm also friends with Doobie. I mean, it's not the only reason, but that's why I'm so loyal. Because of the shit that you did. Look at her. Aristocracy is now Zeldaocracy. But yeah, I still suffer with little bouts of depression, but I have never been consumed. I have never had suicide ideation since I found out since that day. Since I realized I could get a dog. It was the best decision I ever made in my life. And yeah, having a dog has been a headache, right? I'm always responsible for someone. It's cost me a lot of money. I have to be cleaning up poop all the time. You know, like, there's a lot of shit I have to do, but like, you know, there's stress, and having extra things in your life does not equal depression. Sometimes you need that stuff. Sometimes, like, sometimes you need like those like little struggles in your day-to-day life to actually feel not depressed. You know? I think the idea that like, you know, you just need to be living in comfort and relaxing all the time and that's going to make you not depressed. I feel like for me, it was the opposite. So the work makes me feel a lot better. So I lived in an apartment complex full of drug addicts, and I had decided to get a dog, so I scheduled to pick up an appointment for it. The night before, one of the members of the community committed suicide, and the puppy was kind of the only distraction we were able to have. Yep. No, I just wish that we used, like, dogs are just, when you look at the history of dogs and how they evolved and how we evolved and stuff, we literally are meant to be together. I know that sounds so corny. Oh my god. Cart, thank you for those bits.
Starting a new wilderness therapy job tomorrow with suicidal and game-addicted teens being focus groups. Hearing people's stories is so powerful. I am happy giving bits knowing they're going towards wonderful and important work like this Aristo 1 Zelda.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, Cart. I'm really glad that you're gonna be doing that kind of stuff. Look, how many more people would go to a support group if there were a bunch of puppies there, dogs there? Like, there is just something naturally that happens with us when we're around dogs. Like, the science is there. People live longer when they have dogs. People have less stress. Like, they're really, really good for you. You have to put in the work. You can't just like, you can't just get a dog and then hope that the dog magically fixes. Like, you have to be engaging the dog, right? So it's not just complete magical fix. But like, there's just something that just feels right. Like, dogs are the only beings like that know human communication techniques like pointing. No other animal on earth knows what pointing means. When you think about it, pointing, we have like this instinct that when we point at something, it seems so natural to know what that means. But even chimpanzees, like our most closest relative in the animal kingdom, when you point, chimpanzees don't understand what that means, but dogs do. So even though dogs are not as smart as chimps, yeah, so it's not really about intelligence. Like, there are plenty of animals that are smarter than dogs, right? But dogs are intelligent in the way that it's useful they're good at communicating with us. They instinctively know things that we feel, that we are trying to say. It is something really, really special. It's a special connection. And I encourage you guys to all like look up the history. You guys know me. I always do history with everything, right? So even this shit, I will. And if you look up the history of dogs, and how they evolved with us, it's like extraordinary. It's like anyone who doesn't have a dog right now, unless you have a fear of dogs, and I totally understand, like that's a separate issue. But like you're almost living your life with a handicap. That's what I'll say. You should get a dog. Eris, you're going to get accused of spreading pro-dog propaganda of the Twitter cat girls. Yeah, dogs' eyebrows are expressive because of the social conditioning around us. No other animal has that. Yep, that's true, CJ4. Do it in a stream one day. It's funny. I've had cats too, and the cats send me amazing pets, but they still feel like pets. Like, they're sweet, they're loving, and all this stuff. But I'm really telling you, like, Zelda feels like my best friend. She doesn't feel like a pet. Like, a pet almost feels like a demeaning attitude to have with her. Like, we're just connected. I don't know. It's just like that. Dogs do seem to be able to read human body language really well, often better than humans. Yeah, it's true. Zelda is always sweet. She's always friendly no matter what, no matter who she meets. And I always assume that if I got attacked or something, Zelda would just like let the guy attack me, right, and just lick them. Because she's not a guard dog, right? She's just like very friendly, loving to everyone. And there was once a guy who climbed onto my deck and was like, and was spying through the window. Yeah, Sarian, thank you so much for resubbing. Thank you. Thank you for sticking with the aristocracy. I appreciate it. So there's this guy like looking, he was climbing onto my deck and he was spying on me through like the glass doors. And I didn't notice. What I did notice was Zelda growling, right? She was like, she's normally like the sweet dog, right? Like super pretty, like a happy Samoyed, and then she becomes like this. Like literally, she becomes like this. Like she suddenly looks like a wolf. And she's a big dog, right? So she could hurt someone if she needed to. And it was like she just knew that this guy was up to no good. I didn't know how she would know that. Like I didn't even notice that. And she will never do that with like people who go to the front door or anything, but it was like she knew this guy was not, he didn't have good intentions. She could feel it. She could because they can almost smell stress and stuff in the air. Yeah. And I wouldn't have known that was going on if it hadn't been for her. So there's dogs are amazing. They're fucking extraordinary. And I'm not saying you need to get a dog if you're depressed, but what I hope that my story does to anyone is that before you consider any drastic measure, do what I did that day, right? Like really try to think, what can I do? Have I tried every single thing? What can I do? Because the consequence of doing any reason you've given yourself that you can't do the thing that you want, the consequence of doing that is probably the price that you pay is probably a smaller price than ending your life. And you always have to remind yourself that. So even if it means you're going to get into tons of debt, even if it means that you're going to give up a job that you love to go for another job or something like that, do what you need to do, because the consequences are, no matter what, they're going to be less than the consequences of not pushing for your own happiness. I screamed at my wall for 4 years and nearly ended up slashing my wrist. Professional help was incredibly helpful. Yep. Well, the unfortunate thing is that not everyone has the ability to get professional help. And I wasn't in a position that I could. Especially, I have a problem with my hypochondria that I don't like being in I don't like being in medical offices and stuff. So before coronavirus, very few psychologists and stuff would see you virtually. Now it's more common. But yeah, I'm hoping, I still think I need counseling to deal with the day-to-day, but yeah, I haven't had suicide ideation since that day. So yeah, the biggest thing I could just say is just, no matter how small it is, just, advocate for yourself. And go for whatever tiny thing is going to get you living just one more day. Go do it. That's the biggest amount of advice I can get. And obviously, going for professional help is always good if you have that option. Yeah, I'm a hypochondriac. Oh my god, coronavirus was my living nightmare. If coronavirus had happened before I had Zelda, I don't know what would have happened to me, because I have bad hypochondria, so it would have been like my living nightmare in real life. It would have been a total disaster, but Zelda got me through it. And go talk to Doobie, yeah. Wait, I bet you Doobie's gonna be getting so many DMs. Oh shit, I'm sorry. Anything, some Swinky? Well, one of the hardest things about being depressed, and I think a lot of people don't talk about this, is there's a post-depression period. So once you get out of, and this is, I don't know if this is a real thing, this thing like I meant in my head, where there's this post-depression period where you're not depressed anymore, but you're now living with all the effects of your depression, right? So it's like, when you're sick, when you've just had a really bad flu, and then your flu is done, but you're surrounded by like tissues and like a mess, and you feel gross and you need a shower, like it's like that, but with depression. Like there's like a war zone around you, from the friends that you lost along the way, because suddenly now it's like you put on those clear glasses, you can see clearly, you can see color, and you're also seeing how shitty everything is that you like left around. So you have to fix all these relationships. You have to, oh no, don't worry, Almdale. So you have to fix all these relationships. You have to fix all these problems. You have to fix and clean your place. You have to create new habits. Like, you have to start taking care of yourself. Like, I didn't go to the doctor or like go get any kind of medical help when so I had all these health issues that I completely ignored and things like that. Hi, Dio. Dio, thank you so much for subbing again with Prime. Really appreciate it. Oh, I can see clearly now that the rain is gone. So there's this whole like post-depression, and I wish there were any options. I don't know if there's any psychologists here. I really think you could make fucking bank on doing some kind of system of like post-depression recovery. Having like a planner and putting the things into place to start, now that your mind is healthy, now making your life healthy and making that match. And I know that a lot of trans people, you go through that euphoria period where, which is very similar, right? Like where, you're finally starting to feel like your authentic self, but now your life is kind of like, you're realizing how much your life is almost in shatters from, all the effects of being depressed and not being yourself for so long. You'll fuck up your sleep schedule. Maybe you're realizing that you dropped out of school and you need to recover at school. Like there's just so many like little details of things that you ignored, right? Because you really stopped living. Because you're just surviving. So now you need to start living again, and there's this whole recovery period, and there's just very, very little resources out there to help. Something that really, really helped me, and I swear I'm not sponsored by this company, though I wish I wish I was, right? Because I feel like I could really push this shit. Was I got this planner. I got this is like a planner. I'd always tried planning things out like on my phone and stuff, but it never worked out. But being able to like write things down and write my goals down and organize it, even though it was kind of like corny and stuff, it really, really helped me. It's called, the planner I got is called Still. I'll show you guys. God, they should be fucking paying me for this shit, but it's whatever. It's kind of geared more for women, but I feel like anyone could kind of have it. It's really nice because when you pick up like most planners or like most of those like wellness books and stuff like at like a bookstore, most of those things are they're kind of like stuck in the 90s. Yeah, I should reach out to them to sponsor, right? What's nice is they have like specific, their planners are meant for like millennials and Zoomers, Dio, thank you so much for gifting that sub. Thank you. Yeah, they're meant for millennials and Zoomers. It's like really, really cute. So they'll have like planners where, Gosh, I wonder if I can like make this video. I should really get a fucking sponsorship from them. Good dear God. Yeah, they have like these this wellness planner, which is specifically meant to like help you, you know, just take care of yourself, like the day-to-day shit. And you could kind of see like all the typical, like, you know, just things with like your health and any physical symptoms you're feeling. Like they have a symptom diary and stuff. For me, I got this thing. This is the one I got. I got this Get It Done planner. And you don't need to buy it from them. I'm sure like there's plenty of people that do something like this. Most planners like that I see are just like they're stuck in the 90s, but this is very much meant for like you know, the internet generation. But yeah, so I put the sticker on like getting like fixed, like done on the front, and then it, you know, and then you plan out your whole day, and you plan out, and I could plan out like all the things I need to fix and the goals and that what I was grateful for that day and all that shit. And it's fucking corny as hell, but it worked. I could tell you that one of my big goals that I put on here was streaming, and I've wanted to stream again for a really, really long time. And I was consumed with this, like, because when you're depressed, you're consumed with all the negative effects of things. And I was so consumed with this idea of like all the wrong things that could happen when I streamed. I wouldn't think about the positive things. I would just think about like, oh, like what if I get doxxed? Like what if like I'm gonna get so much hate? Like all this like negative shit is gonna happen to me constantly. And like and honestly, when the new year came, I was like, fuck that shit. I'm not living my life in fear anymore, because that's a one-way ticket back to depression. And so I'm just gonna go start taking the chances I need to. And yeah, this planner really, really helped me do that and organize it and stuff. It was absolutely great for me. Yeah, they have like a bunch of things. It's called Still. I don't think it's actually technically gendered, but I definitely know they kind of like their market is more women. But you can get like more masculine when focused if that's like your thing. But yeah, having it all planned out really, 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 really helped. Like kind of get my life back in order. And a lot of people like ask me like how I became so successful at streaming so quickly, because I was very goal oriented. I did all that like I literally put in my planner. I'll show you guys my planner sometimes. Like I literally put down like every weekly goal of what I needed to get done that week. And I was like, hit this amount of subs, like hit this, like try to get this person for an interview and all that stuff. And then I would accomplish it. And even if I accomplished 25% of it, I was still accomplishing more than I would have without the planner. Oh my God, cockblades, you're fucking killing me. But yeah, this is just me being honest. Like if you go to my Instagram, I guess I'm not logged in on this here. Oh no, it's annoying. Okay, well, if you go to my Instagram, you can actually see my first post on there with me with my planner. How many are we from Eris Man Voice? Okay, you're gonna need 22 more subs for Eris Man Voice. So I don't know, like, yeah, I wish there were just more methods in general and more avenues. Someone can make bank like off of creating some kind of program or planner just focused on, you know, post-depression. You know, reminding yourself to take care of yourself every day. Go to the doctor, like, to eat healthy, like, you know, that kind of stuff. Wait, I missed Eris Bad Voice? If this were tomorrow, I would fund that entire amount. That's no, it's okay. Mom, Mary, thank you. Well, yeah, like, and this is what's so crazy, is 2 years ago, it was one of the worst periods of my life. I wouldn't go a day without fantasizing about ending my life. And I could never have known that 2 years later, I would be making a full-time income. Minimum wage, but it's still full-time income as a streamer on Twitch. Like, what a fucking dream come true. That's why you gotta focus on like surviving. You never know like the shit that you're gonna end up finding yourself into. Like, I'm literally now living like every fucking history major's dream of being able to talk about my field for a living. Like, you know how fucking cool that is? Like, this is the best time of my entire life. It's one of the hardest because it's hard dealing with the negatives of that. But holy shit, like, am I grateful? I would have never guessed. That, like, I couldn't have even dreamed up that my life could have been going in such a nice direction. So honestly, thank you to everyone who's subbed to me and who's supported me and who's allowed me to have this kind of career. It's literally a fucking dream come true.